And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Petra Nicoll, who had a near-death experience at the age of 9 and traveled to the Cosmic Library where she encountered spiritual masters. Petra, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Jeff. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time.
Well, we're excited to have you. And Petra, let's start on the day that you had your NDE and go from there.
Well, I grew up in Bavaria, Munich, and I was sort of a precocious child and a little premature baby as well. So I had whooping cough twice and would get colds frequently. And this was a day right before Christmas. It was snowing in Munich. It was super, super cold, and big snowflakes came down, and the snowplow stopped working around 3 p.m. because there was too much snow. And I insisted on going to my aunt's house. And she had this little tiny car with chains on it. I never forget this, how she would put the chains on. And so I went home with her and I started coughing very heavily that night. The next morning, my aunt took me immediately to our family doctor, who reprimanded her for leaving me outside in the cold. And, basically just told her to take me home and get me in a warm house and give me some medicine. And so he gave me what was called Lebertran. What was the name for that? I think it's cod liver. It loosens up the mucus, because he knew my history, obviously. So we got to the house, and my mom was upset with my brother, I remember, because he had lost his gloves. So she had to take him shopping and didn't want to go out anymore. So my aunt had left. They bundled me up on the couch. And she always would put Dr. Zhivago on because my father loved that movie. So I was listening to classical music, Dr. Zhivago, with a big quilt on top of me and looking out to the window, to the door of the balcony, with the light coming through the door in such a way that it was illuminating the snowflakes. So it looked like little angels were dancing in the air. And I was laying there listening to the music, and it was getting darker and darker. And there was one lamp that was still on in the living room. And she said, I'll be back in 20 minutes. It won't take very long. So I drifted away and fell asleep. And suddenly I woke up with an absolute terror. The terror was, I'm going to die kind of terror. Like, I can't breathe. I don't think there's anything more frightening than when you can't get air. I don't know, for anyone that's listening right now, if you've ever been, suffocating, drowning, or anything like this, the feeling is that there's so much fear of losing life, of not being able to take one last breath. And so I jumped up from the couch and I lifted my arms up, and all the things that I could remember as a 9-year-old that I was told to do if anything like that should ever happen. And I just couldn't keep up. The breath wasn't coming. And I could feel my stomach getting sucked in tighter and tighter and tighter. And it just started hurting very badly. And then I collapsed on the ground. And I heard this sound, this celestial humming sound, like the Om sound, like the Om. It just became peaceful. And I went out, and that was it. And in that moment, I had no pain, and I was quite happy. And suddenly, somebody grabbed me by the legs and pulled me out from underneath this table that I fell under. And it was my mother screaming from the top of her voice, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because I must have looked horrendous. The shock must have been quite severe for her. And my brother was in complete panic mode here, frozen at the door. He told me later how scared he was and how terrible that situation was for him, watching his sister basically die. And yeah, so they pulled me out. I came back for a brief moment. I tried to walk around. My mom wanted my brother to walk me around, and I was able to function for just a moment. And then she called 911. 911 didn't come, so she called my father, who was at the local pub, and showed up at the house with his Mercedes and loaded me in the car and took me to the hospital. Now, incidentally, that hospital, the name of it was Steinhöringer Hospital Kinderkrankenhaus. That hospital was also the hospital that my mother was in lockdown with polio for 2 years when she was 13 years old. So it held, a lot of memory for her. So I can't even imagine what she must have experienced when she had to go back into that hospital, this time with her child dying, And also another side story to this, when I wrote about it, was that this was also the hospital that the SS Himmler, the SS Nazi Himmler, that was the breeding ground for the Aryan race, was that hospital. Yeah, so it was pretty intense energetically, this place. So I guess we got there. I don't remember the ride in the car, and I don't remember being taken out of the car. But what I do remember is that when we got inside the hospital, I saw myself laying on the bed with my father leaning over me, and tears were dropping on my face, and I watched it from above. I was already on the ceiling. And I'm sure you've heard this so many times that people, when they first leave, they go to the ceiling, they look around. And my father, he was in absolute dread. I could feel his energy as if I was inside his body. And then my mother had to sit outside in the corridor and fill out some form for the doctors to do a surgery on me. And she was white as a ghost, shaking. Her hand was shaking. And you just notice when you're out of your body all these little things. And what you really see and feel is the emotion of people, what everyone goes through. And I also then moved into the next room, and that was where there were 3 surgeons that were there. 2 nurses, 3 surgeons, and they were scrubbing up and getting ready for this surgery for me. And they were worried. Their faces were also in such a state of worry that I was surprised, because I had never seen doctors be so worried. And I didn't really identify with any of this. I kept calling out to my father, Papa, I'm up here, I'm okay. You don't have to worry about me. And he just kept crying. And then suddenly everything changed. I was within a second, I was inside a tube. I don't even know if it was a tunnel, because people always say tunnel, but for me, it looked like a tube at age 9. And I was literally sucked with the speed of light through a tube. And it had neon lights, like, Space Odyssey 2001 kind of thing. The lights were so bright. There were lights that I had never even seen on Earth. And they were moving like a very fast traffic lights. And I came out suddenly in this ginormous library in the sky. Like, I had not seen a building of this size before. And it had some sort of, it wasn't liquid, but it had movement. It moved. I could feel it vibrating and moving. And I stood there marveling at this extraordinary library and the books. Oh my God, it had hundreds of floors and no ceiling. No ceiling. Of course, later on in my life, I found out that this is the Akashic record. So I was in the records and I was looking at these beautiful books and this beautiful building with no ceiling in the sky. And what was the most amazing part of it was the feeling of complete peace. I didn't feel like I was alone. I didn't feel as if anything was missing. I was just in the space, still with the sound, with this humming celestial om vibration sound that was so calming and so loving. And then as I was looking around this library, I saw to the right of me 3 men standing maybe about 100 feet away. And they had these fantastic, I mean, it was like a cosmic library, and they were standing there with these robes on, you know, like somebody from 2,000 years ago. And so as soon as I saw them, I was then standing with them. And I recognized them. They were my family. That was Jesus. That was, who knows, 2 of the apostles, perhaps. I couldn't recognize them, but Jesus, it was very clear. It was very clear that that's who that was, because, you know, I grew up Catholic and that was pretty easy to identify. They were laughing at me, and it was sort of like a joke that I showed up. Like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. And I said, and I stated my case immediately. My case was, I'm not going back there. I'm staying. I am never going back there again. Don't do that to me again. Sending me to Earth? I don't think so. That's not going to work. And so my little 9-year-old mind must have just thought about creating a scenario so that they would embrace me and keep me there. And as I was stating my case, Jesus said to the one in the red robe, he had a big belly and he had a book in his hand, and the book flipped open, and Jesus said to him, well, let's just see if we can find something for her. And so the book opened, and then all the pages started running through this book from the right to the left, as if some external force opened the book. And then he put his finger down, and the second he put his finger down on something in this book, I was back in my body and woke up in the hospital. And so I opened my eyes, and I was perhaps in a 5,000 square foot building or room within this hospital. A wooden floor, a little crib next to me. There was one other child, and that must have been the intensive care unit, because there was only this little boy and me, and he was maybe 2 years old, and he had this horrid mushroom growth on his mouth. And I had to look away as soon as I gazed upon him. I just looked away immediately because it was so ghastly looking. And then I laid there for a while, and I wondered what had happened and why I was back and why I was not with Jesus. And then the door opened. It was an old wooden door like you get in castles, you know, those creaky doors, really heavy. And in walked my aunt and my mother with their high heels. The women in my family were very elegant. They only wore high heels. And so I immediately recognized their step. And so when they walked toward me, I, for some reason, did not want to open my eyes. I couldn't open my eyes. I wanted to hear what they said. I think I wanted to hear if anybody missed me or what actually happened in the interim from the house to the hospital. And my mother cried, and my aunt was stroking my head, and And she said, well, I'm just so happy that she's still here. And my mother was extremely emotional, saying, I don't know what I would have done if she had died. And so I knew at that moment that I was pretty close to, leaving this planet. And that's where I really wanted to be. And so that was the dilemma. So the next 2 weeks were very curious. I don't remember one single thing about the next 2 weeks in this hospital. It was absolutely, it was just a blank slate. It's like I went to sleep and then I woke up and they let me out. And so I went home. And so when I came home, my story changed dramatically, because right after I was released from the hospital, I was now, it was Christmas, things were busy. I was trying to integrate back into the family, and it was super hard. And I couldn't connect to my father. I couldn't connect to my brother. I could connect to my mother, but I felt like a stranger in a strange land, literally. I felt like I had been completely misplaced and that wasn't my life.
Medically, what was wrong with you?
I had croup. So the mucus, apparently from loosening from the medicine they gave me, clogged up my breathing pathways, and I couldn't get any air. And it was basically what babies get when they're really little. There's just too much mucus, and they have croup. It's a croup attack, and then fear comes into that, and then everything shuts down and closes off. And because my lungs were already, not properly developed, and I had whooping cough twice, there was some scar tissue from that, and so that's what happened. Yeah.
Hello, beautiful people. I'm interrupting this podcast for a quick transmission. If you haven't seen it yet, check out this month's merch design. It's out of this world. Also, join our Substack newsletter for more content. And if you love our videos, be sure to subscribe. It helps out more than you know. End of transmission. Did the Akashic Records library look like it was of Greek or Roman architecture?
It did. It absolutely did. Yes. Have you heard that before?
Many, many times. I was curious to confirm it again. You were only 9 when this happened, but did you notice any significant changes in your life afterwards?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's everything changed.
In what way?
The most profound moment was when my mother and I would always have breakfast together, and my brother typically slept in, and so did my father. And we were sitting at breakfast one morning on Sunday at 7 a.m. And she pulled me so close to her heart. She was hugging me and kissing me, and she was always kissing me so much, especially after that. I received thousands of kisses. And she just cried, and she said, sweetheart, if I had lost you, I don't know what I would have done. And that was my moment where I thought I could tell her what I saw. And so I said to her, I said, Mommy, I have to tell you something. Because until that moment, I was afraid to talk about it, because I was, raised Catholic, and children don't talk to Jesus typically, at least not in the Catholic religion at that time in 1970. And so I told her that I saw Jesus, and that I went into the library and through the tube of light. And she went up to me and she put her finger on my mouth, and said, shh, like that. And she said, never tell anyone, they will put you away. You can only imagine the reaction I had as a little child. Oh my God, they're going to put me away if I tell anyone. So I have to keep this secret. And she never spoke of it, never mentioned it. And she said that Jesus and the conversations with Jesus are reserved for the priests. Okay, I get it. I got it. I was 9 years old. I got it. It was crystal clear. My relationship with my father was difficult. He was an atheist and had some bad experiences with the church as well that caused him some trauma. And my brother just made fun of the whole thing. So I really didn't have anybody to go to that was particularly tuned into spirituality. I was alone in that family in terms of spiritual knowledge.
Did you start having any abilities show up at that time?
I remember being in the mountaineering club. My parents had a business, and so everybody in town knew us. And I went to private school, and I was in the ski club and the mountain club and all these clubs. And I remember a man came up to me and at one of the cottages where we were in the Alps, and he said, Petra, don't ever stop smiling. You have a smile that can help people. And then I remembered slipping into his body and feeling everything he was feeling. And so I had this astral projection, as a child. I mean, you don't know what any of this is, but you just feel compassion and you want to help people. And he had some problems. And so I just assisted him. And then life went on, and suddenly I was a teenager. I came out of business school. My mom sent me to this very expensive business school so I could work in the business at home. And by the time I was 16, I had that certificate in hand. And 2 days later, I found my mother dead in the kitchen. She was 39 years old. So I had my entire life changed in the moment. You can imagine I was, in a family, close-knit, 5-mile radius, grandfather, grandmother, aunts, uncles, cousins. There was visitation every single day with some relative somewhere. We were celebrating everything together. And suddenly the story went from the happy family with the business to the dysfunctional family that nobody knows how they're going to survive.
Let's fast forward to how you met your guru and who he or she was.
I went back to Germany after I had my first encounter with a medium in London. Someone had urged me to go see this medium, and they connected me to my mother and my grandfather. And somehow my grandfather related to me that there was some money waiting for me in Germany from a house that my brother inherited. So I was quite surprised, went back to Germany, found out about my brother's gambling addiction and found out that there was a house and there was some money left. So that was good news. Went to Paris to study French and then came back and realized that I didn't really want to take this job at Lufthansa as a flight attendant because you had to speak French and English, And I visited my friend Walter, my previous love. And it was so eerie. He picked up the phone as if he was waiting for my phone call. And he said, when can you be here? And I said, well, in 20 minutes, I'll jump on the train because trains were going all the time. And I walked into this building that he was at. He was behind the building in the garden. And he comes out from behind it. And here's this gentleman that I used to know, clean shaven, short hair, really dressed to the nines, suddenly with a Punjabi suit, long hair, a long beard, and a completely different person. And I said, what happened? And he takes my hand and says, come on, let's go. So we're going into the house, and there are pictures of my teacher that I had been seeing on the inside. Whenever I closed my eyes, I was seeing this man for years and years and years. I didn't know who that was. And the picture of my guru was on the wall. So I said, who is this? Who is this?
And who is this?
His name, he's, I make it very difficult. his name is Takar Singh, Sant Takar Singh, and he's a Radha Swami master. His master was Kirpal Singh. He was the founder of the God, what was the name of this? Humanity of something conference, and Indira Gandhi was his disciple.
Was he a Sikh?
Yes, he was a Sikh from the lineage of Guru Nanak.
So did you become a Sikh and start dressing that way? And
no, I didn't become a Sikh. I got initiated into Suraj Shapt Yoga, is the name of this particular type of yoga of light and sound. And it was, you had to be a vegetarian, you had to meditate a minimum of 3.5 hours a day. You couldn't drink alcohol, you couldn't smoke cigarettes, and you had to attend satsang, meaning you go to sit in the presence of truth with other people, and you read the books that the masters have written. And so I studied this for 11 years.
It's a long time.
It's a very long time. And went to India. India was extraordinary because India was a place where everybody should at least go once in a lifetime. I don't know if you've ever been to India.
I haven't.
But it's a place where many of the spiritual truths are revealed. You know, there are many teachers, and if you need to go inward, that's the place to go. So this is a place where there's chaos, and at the same time, it is organized in the chaos because it's so calm. And I was there the first time almost a year, and the second time 6 months, and then lived in an ashram after that. And was actually one of the founders of an ashram. I was one of the original 12 people in Oregon that were sent to the Lighthouse Farm. It's called the Lighthouse Farm. They have restaurants now. And, you know, everybody was at that time very worried about Rajneesh. You know, there was this, Rajneesh was going out and we were coming in, you know, so it was like, are you guys the same people? And we were a different type of group. You know, we were living, I would call it, we were living monastic lives, you know. And I went inward for a long time.
Did you ever get involved with the Hare Krishna?
Many of my many friends I had in Roseburg, Oregon, which is incidentally near Eugene, were all Hare Krishnas, and I did get initiated into the Krishna path, so they even gave me a name, Priya Saki. I still have very good friends that are part of the Krishna movement that were there from the beginning. Yeah.
When I used to live in Atlanta in the 90s, there was a Hare Krishna temple, which was basically a large 1800s antebellum home converted into a temple. And in the basement was a restaurant, a vegetarian restaurant. And I used to love to just go there and eat. You could hear them upstairs chanting and playing like a tambourine and stuff.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Yep.
Like that. And it's Govinda. By the way, in Eugene, there's a Govinda restaurant. I'm sure there's one in Portland, but I haven't been to it. I need to find it. Best food in the world. Sure.
Yeah, it was amazing. With the accumulation of all the experiences that you've had in your life, who are you today?
I write books. I have a publishing company. I see clients. I teach a lot of Reiki classes and retreats with one of your interviewees, Ani Abedisian, is a good friend of mine. We teach classes together, and we do some fun stuff here at our house. Our house is a retreat house on the river. so people can come here and explore their inner journeys and learn new things. We are trying and believing that the more we open this door to weekend retreats where people can really do deep work on themselves, especially, I mean, Reiki was a staple in my life. You know, it's been something that I've been teaching for 35 years and with thousands of students. So I continue that. And I love just sharing my knowledge of everything I learned in India. I even wrote a fiction book called the Billionaire Series. It's a series of 4 books where I implanted all of my experiences that were very difficult, by the way, into my character that he had to go through. And it's a fun story about a kid that reincarnates from being very, very wealthy and becomes a rock star. And his guide shows up when he's 25 years old and has to teach him how to not be corrupted by money. So, yeah.
Do you still communicate with Jesus?
Yes. In fact, one of the greatest gifts it was for me, Jeff. There is a book by Paul Farini called Christ Consciousness. I owned a New Age store in Roseburg, Oregon, and a juice bar and bakery. And I remember the day I had 10 people come in to pray for my soul because of the books I sold and the stuff I was doing, you know, in the community. I had a sweat lodge on my property and, you know, I was really engaged. And I asked them all if they could take this book home with them and read it, because the way I understand the Christ consciousness or the master consciousness, it is all one. They're not separate. Whether it's Babaji or Yogananda or my guru or Kirpal Singh or Baba Salman Singh or any of the masters, it is the same frequency, it's the same energy. And so do I still speak with my guru? Do I still speak with Jesus every day? In fact, the number one experience that changed my life, because until then, I honestly didn't want to be here. I thought this was a big mistake by the universe to send me here, because I didn't belong here. I kept asking them, I said, why me? Like, why would you send me? And later I found out that I asked for it. You know, I made the deal to come to Earth at this time. But many of us right now, and I'm sure some of your listeners will identify with this, you feel like you're completely misplaced. You don't know how to integrate, how to belong, and what is going on in this world. Things are so crazy. So he gave me this one key moment in time. And it was, we were at Hidden Valley Ranch, and I was meditating from 5 a.m. on. And I suddenly found myself sitting on a gigantic swan, like the size of a ship. And I was sitting on the back of the swan with a magic wand in my hand. And the master was, whether that's Jesus or my guru, since I believe they are one, he was standing on the swan with a golden staff in his radiant form. He was glowing like gold. And we were floating on this lake. And there was love beyond measure, love that you could not experience here on Earth. Maybe in the first moment when you see your child born, it's close to that. But he said to me, he said, use your magic wand, Petra. The world is at your feet. The universe is at your feet. And I saw angels flying and mountains all around this lake that were liquid, silver and gold and diamonds. And I could have been there for hours and hours and hours. And then suddenly it was noon and somebody shook me in the meditation hall and said, Petra, lunch is being served, and brought me out of this amazing meditation. So, which was hard to forgive in the moment. My friend Cindy, I say, lunch is not more important than my meditation. So I found this. Why was it so powerful? Because I know that when I cross over, I know where I'm going. I know what is awaiting me on the other side. I know that I'm never alone. And I know that we're all connected and that the love that exists between all of us is real. And all we have to do is open our hearts to each other. And we can create a heaven on earth. I believe that. I believe 3I Atlas is coming through our space to infuse some love right now. I believe that humanity is, my guru told me we're walking into the golden age. You know, a lot of the Krishna devotees talk about the Kali Yugas. I mean, I read the Bhagavad Gita. We are on the threshold of something very, very big. And we must open up to this love that is readily available, whether that's through scalar energy or whatever devices you can put in your house. I have all these devices in my house, my cats, whatever it is that can bring more joy and more love into your life. And that experience with the meditation was the key element of wanting to be here on earth and staying, because I know that when I go home, I will probably turn right back again and say, please let me go to earth. I want to be human again. I want to come back.
That's amazing, because so many people don't want to return.
Yeah. But you know what it is, Jeff? The next level is service. I think that once you get to the level, or not even a level, once you get to the place where you realize that it's all about service and being there for others, that we really don't matter that much. You know, my life doesn't really matter that much. I have a great life. I've been given everything. But what can I give? That is the key. What can I give back? What can I give back to this, to people who are completely hopeless right now? What can I give back? How can I give it back?
Do you fear death?
No. I'm excited about death. I think if there's any fear I have, it would be, oh God, I really don't want to get sick. I just want to be one of those people. Maybe I'll ski down a mountain really fast and can't get the corner and land on a tree or something, or jump out of a plane. I'm a very active person. I'm 65, but I'm very active. You know, I still do crazy things.
If you had a friend that was grieving over the loss of a loved one, what type of advice would you give?
Well, the first thing I always say to people, and it's hard to hear for folks, you know, especially when you're losing someone that you've been emotionally so attached to and you can't see them anymore. But I just don't believe that there's death. And I think that they're all around you and that our loved ones are not gone and that you see them again. And that I come out in the living room in the morning and I've had a lot of people that died. I had 2 boyfriends that died, one by accident, one by suicide. It was very hard to get over the emotional grief, but just knowing that you may be giving up your external, you know, skin and bones, your bone bag is gone, but your consciousness, you never leave. You're always here with your loved ones. And we are multidimensional beings. We live in different dimensions. I'm sure there's at least 3 of you in other dimensions, maybe 5.
Well, some people believe that all of our lives are happening at the same time. There is no past life. Would you agree with that?
Right. I wrap my mind around that quite often, actually. Yeah, I do think that it is that there is the timeline is even. Yeah, because you know there's no distance. It's like scalar waves. Like if you have a scalar waves, they have there is no loss of energy when scalar comes towards an object or towards something. Or how do we call somebody in India? You know, it's the same thing. Everything is working and it's the timeline is even, so everything exists at the same time. What do you think? Do you think everything exists at the same time? I mean,
don't
it's
know.
only us that have this issue.
I'm on the fence about it because I talk to so many different guests that have so many different opinions, where some of them can easily talk about having a past life and experiencing them, versus people who say it's all happening at the same time. And since I haven't had the experience, I can't really comment on it.
But what if your past life is right now?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Perhaps you've been 100 people. I mean, I've been approached by a secret society that I was a part of for 5 minutes, and I can't tell you who they are. But I had a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine from Roseburg, who was an attorney, sent my picture in, and I didn't even know that she was part of this. And they confirmed that I was this particular character in the past, and 2,000 years ago, and that I walked with Christ. And this had happened many, many, many times. I've been told the same exact information, but I wasn't going to, log on to that piece of information saying, oh yeah, I was that person. And so now, everybody listened to me. I mean, I was probably 100 other incarnations in between. But if I could talk to myself 2,000 years ago, and the timeline is even, then I can connect with her right now and feel what she was feeling. It is possible.
What did you do with the society?
So first of all, they sent my picture in, and they confirmed, the whole Mary Magdalene theme has been following me my entire life since I was little. This has been going on a very, very long time. So they get together in these exotic places like in Russia or Ireland or Egypt, and suddenly they were coming to Portland, Oregon. So I attended. I paid my $700 and attended, and it was a 3-day event. I walk in, I immediately meet some very prominent, famous people, especially one comes up to me and says, you and I were married 3 times in previous lives. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. Great. They did this thing called psychoanthropology. And what it is the head of the organization has the ability to see every lifetime you've ever had. And the lifetimes where you had responsibility toward the planet, if you didn't fulfill your duty, he gives you those lifetimes to do research on it. And then you're supposed to stand on stage and do this dissertation on these lives where you've basically messed up. And then how can you find your way back to fixing it in this life? It's kind of a good deal. But for me personally, I think it's a distraction to know too much about your past lives. Because, if you're, most of the time people are somebody important. They're not really Joe down the road who clean toilets, right? You're always like somebody that has a name, that is famous. And while that's true in a way, because we are in the group soul as well, so we carry that essence, it is true. But I never got too much, I was never swayed by the fame of that, or, okay, great, I'm that person or was that person. How does that benefit now? How can I help people now? People will just cry all the time when they see me. I won't share it.
Do you see UFOs or have contact with aliens?
I had an alien, if you can call him an alien, because I love that alien. I don't really call him an alien. But then again, we're all sort of aliens anyway. But you know who Quetzalcoatl is? Yes. Okay. So I was in the family house when I got back from England. And the energy was a little difficult because of my brother, trying to figure out how the money thing worked and such. And fell asleep and had this experience where I was on the Mexican border with my really good friend, Regina, and we were showing our passports to the Border Patrol, and the validity date disappeared. So they arrested us because we didn't have a valid passport. It just disappeared in front of our eyes. And then one of the people there at the border, he said, "Come follow me." So we followed him in our blue little Volkswagen Beetle Bug along this mountain path in Mexico that had like if you made one mistake, you'd fall thousands of feet deep into the abyss. And suddenly, out of the clear blue sky, was Quetzalcoatl standing in front of me in full glory with his arms out like this, and his eyes were like rainbow eyes. And I thought that was my best alien experience I ever had. But when I lived in Mexico, we had a UFO sighting in Rosarito Beach above the electricity station. And a gentleman was on television who had never made it to San Diego. That information never made it to San Diego. He was up on the playa, on this plateau, and the UFO came down and shattered all his windows. And the next day, he was on television, just totally distraught, talking about it. And, the whole town was up in arms about the UFO sighting in Rosarito Beach. So that was as close as I got to a UFO sighting. But, yesterday or day before yesterday, the movie came out, the new one,
right.
about I
Disclosure.
bought it last night.
Did you watch it?
Disclosure. I watched it.
How was it? I haven't seen it.
It's, it's okay. It's okay. They could have done a little bit more graphic stuff to make it more exciting.
I think it's more of a political movie about disclosure, right?
Yes. I mean, they're really trying to get it through Congress. I think we have a right to know. We have a right to know. Yeah.
Well, if people want to find out more about what you're up to, what is your website?
Oh, just my first and last name, Petra, Petra, Nicoll, NICOLL.com.
After watching this, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Do you have a contact form there?
There's a contact form, yes. Yeah, and I wanted to give something to your readers, to your viewers. I have a meditation that I give away for free. It's called Golden Light Meditation.
All right. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do.
Is it also your name?
It's my name, Petra Nicoll.
What kind of content are you posting there?
Well, I did audio recordings for a while, and I was interviewing some people for a while. I have a show with Ani up. Honestly, I think it is Revealing Conversations. It's still my old podcast. Yeah. Try Revealing Conversations with Petra. But I'm going to change it back to Petra Nicoll so it's easier for people to find me.
Petra, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
I didn't just walk a spiritual path. I had to learn how to live it inside everything in my life. I think that the message for your listeners is that if you can integrate your spiritual seeking, your spiritual life with your everyday duties that you have, you're on the right track. Go outside every day. Just simple things. Eat healthy, visit with friends, socialize, put your phone down. Those are always my messages.
Petra, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.